I no longer have time. Books are being burned, and apparently there's nothing we can do about it because how do we gather up all our funds and, you know, buy up all the books without being scrutinized at this point? Something is happening. Fahrenheit 451 is coming to play already, and a vast majority of the world don't know it. So it's about time I create a catalog where people are able to reference for verified information, because here's what I have been planning to do for months but haven't been able to because I believed I needed to structure myself properly so that it would be worth watching in the first place. The plan was to read books and break the thought processes behind why those books were written in the first place down so that people would be able to make decisions, with critical thinking and not with emotional persuasion. Emotional persuasion goes a long way to in the form of inputting thought processes that were not supposed to happen in the first place, because the use of words have been alchemized to deliver a certain type of information. As a marketer, we know that when certain types of words are put together and their corresponding meanings are put together to form a sentence, to form a message, to form an information, the response to those messages would be inherently different, not because of what the so-called information is trying to teach, but because of what the writer intended. You get your feelings not from what the message intended to teach, but from what the writer intended. And so instead of reading in that format, I am deciding instead to read from a place of objective criticism. I read with objective criticism. That means I tend to see different perspectives from writings, and I don't just do it from a place of innate understanding, from a place of inherent, from a place of I can't put a word to it, but intuition. Intuition plays a large role in understanding what it is that is being passed across. And I've attuned my intuition so much to my curiosity and my search for information and truth that when I read books, I'm able to discern, I'm able to decipher what those books are actually trying to deliver based on the nature of the words. And dictionaries help too, but apparently we're not going to be getting access to that as well, because they're going to be changing the meanings of words so that it's going to influence our reality. There's a lot of things happening, but I'm going to try my best to be very objective. I'm going to try my best to not let the biases determine how I'm going to break these books down. But most importantly, I am going to document every reading session and put it on here so that people are able to reference it as a catalog for actual information. Now, the book that I'm going to be breaking down in this video is this, of course. It's very important for a lot of reasons. Power. The definition of power has been changed over time. There was a time in our history as human beings where power was determined based on your level of exposure to spiritual powers. There was a time in history where power was determined based on your level of connection with the earth, your level of connection with natural elements of our reality. There was a time where your level of power was influenced by how much people loved you. But today, I think we can already determine how power is measured. Money. So now that we know that power, the definition of it, changes over time, how do you think this book is going to be processed? How do you think people comprehend this book? When I was a kid, I did a lot of testings, and I came across this book and I was really curious about it, and I read it and I implemented a lot of the steps. Of course, you don't implement the steps like exactly as what is written. For instance, it says never outshine the master, and it's talking about a situation where a finance minister is trying to please the king and the king gets so jealous. You don't always get the chance to be in the presence of a king, or even a finance minister. So what the book is essentially doing is painting a picture. So it's now up to you to be able to determine what situations mirror the situation between the finance minister and the king, and how never outshine the master is actually going to come into play if there's actually someone who is insecure enough to even want to give that whole attention to in the first place. And so not only do you have to read to understand what is happening, you have to be able to judge situations and determine if this situation is ideal for the type of caution or the type of steps that I want to take to get what it is that I want. That's the entire concept behind books generally. But this book, this particular book, there's a lot of things happening here that we need to break down. And I'm going to be starting with the first law. Never outshine the master. Judgment. Always make those above you, rather. Let me take that again. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please and impress them, do not go too far in displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite, inspire fear and insecurity. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are, and you will attain the heights of power. I think the fact that power, the definition of it, has changed over time means a certain group of people who have access to that type of power were not supposed to have access to that type of power. Because if you actually had authentic power, as you say, as you deem yourself fit for, there is absolutely no reason why you should be feeling insecure about someone else's shine. I mean, you would know enough to see and actually know that each person is so unique that there is something that always stands out about them. There is something that is innately special about them that we just can't mirror. If you actually had the power that you say you do, I don't think you would be, I don't think as someone wanting to get to a place of influence, you would be needing to make your superiors comfortable. What's the need for that? At least that's my judgment. Because considering everything I've gone through,